I am Gavneet Kaur Pruthi, practicing clinical and child psychologist in New Delhi. Today, I'm going to talk something about memory. Memory is basically our ability to recall the information which we have learned earlier. Today, I'm going to tell you about that there are 4 methods by which we can measure memory. The first method is the recall method, in which the subject is required to recall what he has already learned. Okay. So in this recall method, the subject is given a list of words, and after that the subject is asked to recall that list of words. Now this recall method, there are two type of recall scores, that is free recall score and anticipatory recall score. The free recall score में क्या होता है कि subject is required to recall the list of the words from the list in any order, ठीक है. But in the anticipatory recall score में क्या होता है that the subject is required to recall the words from the list where they were there in the list, that is according to the serial order. So the two types of recall scores are free recall, in which subject is recalling freely the number of words in the list, and anticipatory score, in which the subject is recalling the words where they were there in the series in the list. The second method of measuring memory is recognition method. In this recognition method, the subject is required to recognize the material which has earlier learned from the list of the material which he has not learned. For example, the subject is basically asked to recall the 20 words of list which he has learned from the 50 words of list which he has not learned. So now in this recognition method, the subject is required to recognize the 20 words which he has already learned from the 50 words which he has not learned. The recognition score is basically influenced by the distance between the correct and the incorrect alternatives which is given to the subject, and also the number of alternatives which is given to the subject. By the number of alternatives, I mean that if the subject is required to recognize 20 words which he has already learned from the list of new 40 words, he will be easily able to recall those 20 words. Then when the subject is asked to recall those 20 words from the list of new 80 words or 120 words or 160 words. Okay. The third method of recall or third method of measuring memory is basically saving or relearning method of measuring memory, which was basically given by Ebbinghaus, and there is a very simple formula which is given for computing this saving memory, that is number of repetitions required in original learning minus the number of repetitions required in new learning divided by number of repetitions required in original learning into 100. So this is a method by which the saving method or the relearning method in which the memory is measured. The fourth method is the reconstruction method. Now in the reconstruction method, it is saying that when we are memorizing or learning some materials in our life, like for example any book chapter we are learning, during the time of input of that learning of the material, we are making some changes, we are simplifying the material, we are elaborating the material, or we are making some additions or subtractions to that material during the input of that material in our memory system, and these changes which we are doing is basically called the constructive processes. On the other hand, during the time of the retrieval also, we are making some changes to the material learned earlier, and the changes which we are making to the material learned during the time of the retrieval are known as the reconstructive processes. So according to this method or the method of measurement of memory, the constructive and the reconstructive processes basically determine how much material is remembered. Okay, so these constructions or the reconstructions which we have made to the material which we were remembering or learning basically determine how much material we will actually remember in our life. Okay, so these are the 4 methods of measuring memory, and I hope by this video you are able to get some inputs about the 4 methods of memory, that is recall method, recognition method, saving or relearning method, and reconstruction method. If there is something which you want to add to this video, I'll be very thankful to you, and if you like my video, then please subscribe and like the button. Thank you so much.